Fantastic.
Yeah. I mean,
I
I don't think you have to.
salty Tom Toole.
I don't think you have to physically.
If you are not getting educated about local market conditions as well as national, whether you're in finance, accounting, mortgages, title, or obviously real estate, you're doing yourself and your clients a disservice. This is the Knowledge Brokers Podcast. I'm Tom Toole. I'm here with Byron Lazine and Lisa Chinatti, and coming off a pretty exciting pod from last week. We had George Ratiu, the chief economist from Keeping Current Matters on, and that was so jam-packed, and then Lisa's daughter almost lost a finger in the middle of it, so she missed half the podcast. But she's okay, by the way.
Totally fine.
There was a lot of great data there, Byron, and I wanted to just start with some takeaways because I have a page full of notes, a lot of nuggets that I can communicate with consumers, and we're doing team-wide. But what are your two reactions coming off that pod?
Well, I mean, one, George is incredibly smart. He's super intelligent about the market. He didn't have a lot of stories in there, which was fine because I enjoyed it. It was straight to the facts. It was straight data. He wasn't taking any, emotional stance on the data. So if you're an agent who didn't listen, go back. If you're, listening to this after this pod, go back and give that a listen over the long holiday weekend because he had some real, nuggets. I love the three reasons why buyers are not overpaying in this market. He went down the line and we actually posted an article yesterday on nowbam.com, the three reasons buyers are not overpaying for their home. And listen, if you just look back on the last 4 decades, home values have gone up in each of the every decade, 30%, 40%, or near 50%. And he gives his three reasons: the consumer's baseline, your time horizon. And that's a conversation a real knowledge broker wants to have with every single home shopper. What's your time horizon in the home? And then that construction has not kept up with demand. So we're going to continue to see these home appreciation bursts far into the future, just like the ones we've seen the last 4 decades. So that was my biggest takeaway. Home buyers are not overpaying for homes right now, despite the competition and despite where values currently sit.
Sorry, I almost just choked myself. I agree. I think that swallowed wrong. It happens to all of us. I think that, looking at the data, it was super impactful to be able to put it in a way that made sense for an agent and broke it down so that it was super easy to relate to consumers. And I think one of the things that I see agents struggle with the most is hearing the data and being able to understand the data at a high level, but not necessarily knowing how to break it down into small enough chunks for the consumer to understand. And I think that there was a lot of great takeaways in that respect.
Well, and that's what Keeping Current Matters does, right? That's why they're a successful company, because a lot of agents, they don't know much about the economy or financial markets when they get into the business in the first place. So that tells me he's a great match for that company. The one thing I like the most is that there's been this talk about the spread of the 10-year versus mortgage rates, and he explained that's a measure of risk. And I thought that was one of the most succinct ways to explain that, because you see these blogs and these podcasts and these charts and graphs, and it gets confusing why a couple years ago the spread was much lower. And, Logan Mohtashami has said, rates should be somewhere in the mid-5s based on the current numbers right now. And it's because we're coming out of a highly unusual period and risk is on the downside. And that really summed it up, because it was a highly unusual period. We all know that. That was the unicorn market. And to explain it that way, I haven't heard anyone else be able to articulate what's going on with mortgage rates. And we're going to hit on that here because that's one of the topics this week, in such a manner that made so much sense.
I agree. Tom, are you running off of Ethernet, or are you like you're using your cell phone as a hotspot? Your audio is cutting. Your Wi-Fi is so bad that your audio is cutting in and out on us here.
Do you want me to get Nick in here?
Get somebody. Get why? Did you pay the Wi-Fi bill over there?
We paid the Wi-Fi bill, yes. No, but we didn't pay our Zillow Flex account, so we got some problems.
Haley says hop out and log back in.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I mean,
I
don't think you have to.
Tom Toole.
I don't think you have to physically. You have to physically walk out to log out. What are you doing here? Oh my gosh!
The up close and personal of his nose is amazing.
Oh, that was great. We're keeping all of that in, by the way, Haley. Do not. So if you're actually listening, you might want to go to YouTube right now and just check out Tom's reaction. It was interesting. Lisa, where do you want to take it from here? We got the article that you uploaded that agents are the point to consumers on lending. Might be a good segue off of Tom's reaction to George's, how to break down that 30-year to the 10-year relationship.
Yeah, I think that this is a huge one. So Zillow published a report this week called The Dollars and Cents of Buying a Home. And I think one of the things that was really kind of impactful and that agents really need to internalize is that, and we all know Zillow is great at research. I think every single one of us on here would admit that the consumer insights that Zillow comes up with are exactly what have enabled Zillow to stay so on top of trends and so in the forefront of everything related to residential real estate. And so this survey that they did showed that 55% of all buyers go to their real estate agent for lending advice and guidance through the lending process. The number goes up for those that are first-time buyers, with 58% of first-time buyers looking to their real estate agent as the point person for guidance about all things related to lending. And only 32% of consumers actually start with a financial institution or get their advice and information from their loan officer or what have you. And so I think that that's super impactful for agents to understand that knowing real estate is one thing, understanding the process of the transaction is another part of it, but just as big and equally important is understanding lending and what factors come into it. And I think it's often really underrated, and I don't think we talk about it enough.
I agree. And I want to put the table up, Haley. So make sure we put this table up where the one that Lisa's referencing here, with all successful buyers being at 55% going to their agent, 58% of first-time home buyers going to their agent. Lisa, what's also interesting is repeat buyers. 53% of them go back to their agent for lending advice. You would think that after going through the process once, that the repeat buyer number might be far lower because, okay, I have a relationship now with a lender. I've done it once. I'm going to go directly to that person. But no, more than half of them are going back to the agent. Huge opportunity to be the knowledge broker and to be that go-to source for every single real estate question that you have. And Lisa, I couldn't agree more. If you're going to rely right now as an agent, and I'm certain it's not you if you're listening to this, but for the agents that are relying on being able to schedule showing time and being able to do a home tour with a home shopper are going to be put out of business by AI. That's going to be able to solve all of those problems. But the agent who's actually the expert, to Lisa's point, and can walk you through lending, how to structure a negotiation, how to calculate it, what does my offer do when matched up against cash? Is it the right time to buy in this market? What are the conditions that are happening in the community that's going to impact the next 10 years of home values? What businesses are coming out? What businesses are going out rather and coming in? All of those questions, all of that information, you should be the resource to your clients and consumers.
Huge. And the next part of this article was kind of talking about the top pain points that consumers referenced throughout the lending process. And not surprising, or at least I wasn't surprised by most of what came up. Understanding all of the costs associated with the mortgage and the home payment. I think often we talk about principal and interest when we're talking about mortgage payments, but we leave out, and consumers don't always factor in, property taxes and insurance and PMI when that comes up. And there were some interesting stats about the percentage of buyers that are paying mortgage insurance I'm going to admit, I was surprised by the percentage of buyers that are paying mortgage insurance. 73% of consumers have some sort of mortgage insurance. That's a big number.
Yeah.
Tommy, you're grimacing.
I'm shocked by that. I mean, that's the way people talk, and even agents say this, like, "Oh, you need 20% down to buy a home," and this is, and I love looking at data like this. NAR does the same thing with like what sellers are concerned about, because agents tend to focus on stuff they think in their head is the consumer's concern instead of what actually matters to them.
Right.
And
Right.
a 5-minute read of this article would change the outlook if people actually do it on how that's going to impact their ability to win clients and educate them. And Byron, you're right. I mean, we're going to get replaced in a lot of this stuff if we can't provide value.
And it's going to give you the insights on where your conversations should be leading to when you talk to new leads, when you talk to new home shoppers, when you talk to somebody at open house. The mistake that we make as agents far too often is that our last 10 or 12 deals is our reflection in our head of what the market is thinking and how consumers relate to the market. Your last 10 or 12 deals are not a big enough sample size. I'm sorry, it's just not. And so looking at these macro trends is just as important as the information and education that you learned during your last 10 or 12 deals. I'm surprised that 53% of repeat buyers go back to their agent for lending questions. That's surprising to me, because maybe in the last 10 or 12 deals, that hasn't propped up for me personally, right? And so you got to take too many times agents are telling you how the market is based off of their activity and their personal closings year to date. And the market is usually reflecting a different story than 10 or 12 deal sample size.
Yeah.
You look at repeat buyers too. Like, people buy homes every 11, 12 years. So imagine what the world was like 2012. When we were coming out of the last recession, it was very different. And so that probably has a lot to do with it, but agents don't think that way.
I had better Wi-Fi in 2012 than you do right now.
I'm fucking going. I'll see you guys next week. I'm going down the shore.
I mean, Tom's been he set this up, Lisa, so he could go to the Jersey Shore and go open up the beach house for the summer.
Afternoon. It has nothing to do with this. They're there. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna let me try.
Everybody in Philly goes to the Jersey Shore this weekend. Tom can't wait. Here's I'm gonna find it. It's an Ivy Zellman quote. This is too good going into the holiday weekend.
Dying.
Become a better agent. Everyone tells you what to do. We actually show you how to do it. That's with our BAM X subscription down below. Make sure you sign up today. We have an event coming up in September. All of our events and creator courses, you get 25% off when you're a BAM X member. You don't want to miss any of these upcoming events. And in the meantime, we're uploading new BAM courses every single month from our BAM team that you have instant access to, along with the live streams. Sign up for BAM X today so you can become a better agent. I mean, Lisa, you're on Ethernet in your office, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just a little tip, not that anybody doesn't know this. I don't think you're learning anything here, but anytime you're on a streaming service, if you're going to be recording it and going on the internet, you want to be on Ethernet. I mean, that's
kind of a prerequisite. I actually think, if I'm not mistaken, that the emails that they send over actually even state that, and Thomas just thinks he's too good.
That's true. Haley, our great producer here, usually it's Bobby, but Bobby's been in Sweden. Bobby over in Sweden has better internet than this, but Haley puts into the notes, make sure that you are on Ethernet. Let me find this quote from Ivy Zellman. I used it in the hot sheet this week, Lisa, but it's a great quote about what we're talking about understanding all of the dynamics here in not only your local market. Of course, we need to be the expert in our local market, but if we don't understand what you're talking about, the way the lending process works, we don't understand what we talk about often here, the macro environment of the real estate industry, we're going to get exposed really, really quick. And the best way to increase an agent's income, the best way for an agent to actually make more money is to eventually start climbing the average price in their market. Lisa, you've done that with your business in Massachusetts, where your team headquarters is in Chelmsford, Mass, which is 45 or an hour, is it, from Boston? I don't really know exactly.
Yeah, it depends on traffic. Yeah.
Yeah, so 45 minutes or whatever from Boston. But once you started creeping into the city and the price point just continued to increase, or different suburbs around the city that you weren't working when you started your career, though, am I right or wrong that those clients required an even more, more knowledgeable level of service from the agent?
100%. I think the interesting thing is that it was maybe a different kind of knowledge, right? And that's one of the things that I always talk about with agents when looking at moving into different markets, right? In the suburbs where our office is, agents have to know stuff about zoning with septic systems versus city sewer. They need to know about the school systems. Getting into downtown Boston, we're talking about construction and which side of the street is the sunny side of the street, and small little things that an agent who sells in the suburb wouldn't even understand or think to understand, but can have impact on value of 10% just by virtue of whether you're an odd number or an even number because of how the sun shines. It's crazy.
And here's the quote from Ivy Zellman, she's a Hall of Fame institutional investor, equity, and analyst. She probably is the best when it comes to these housing trends. Her reports are super expensive. You can go on Zellman and check her out. But anytime you get an opportunity, she maybe speaks once or twice a year. I'd love to have her on here at some point. You're going to learn a lot. And so here's a quote from Ivy Zellman. "We would never suggest that a real estate company be successful without fully understanding local market trends." That's an obvious, right? But ignoring macro trends or assuming that they do not carry the same weight would be an equally erroneous suggestion. In our experience, the most effective industry leaders appreciate the appropriate balance between the two ends of the spectrum. I could not have said it any better myself, Ivy, and that is the truth. You've got to understand all facets. If you're reliant on being able to help a consumer, get through a fill in the blank contract, accept or decline showing time, and open a lockbox, you're not long for the next 10 years in this industry. The next 10 years of this industry, I promise you, are going to integrate a whole bunch of AI automation. Zillow, with a $10+ billion market cap, is looking at this. CoStar, Homes.com, with a $30+ billion market cap, is looking at and investing in AI. Okay, think about the business 20 years ago. Think about it today, how much it's different, how much tech is involved. And in 10 years, the last 20 years is going to look really insignificant on the tech advances. The last 20 compared to the next 10 with what you wait and see what AI does to it. Tom, are you back with us or do you got you? His face didn't even, there it is. He's back. What do you got? You got flip-flops on under that
Flip-flops on. I'm not a rookie here, but you mentioned all the stuff you're talking about. If that's what agents think their value is, that's assistant work, by the way. That's not agent work. You can hire an assistant. And I know when I was heavy in production, doing 90 sales a year, I wasn't putting lock boxes on. I wasn't setting up my own showings. I was doing the things that mattered in the business. And the unicorn market made that stuff seem like what's most important, which is where we're going now, into a real market where you got to grind it out. So, I mean, you can outsource this stuff in a lot of places, whether it's VA or something else. So I think that's really well said, Byron, because too many agents think their job is to be the assistant and the curator instead of driving the transaction, guiding consumers, giving advice, and then doing income producing activities to do that over and over and over again.
Yeah, totally agree. Anything else in that Zillow report, Lisa, that agents should know or that you're talking to your agents about?
No, I think that was, actually, I'll take that back. The other one that I found, that we all kind of need to be aware of, was this section about most buyers make at least one sacrifice to save up their down payment. And there were some on there that I expected: reduced spending on entertainment, things like dining out and concerts, postponing or canceling vacations, working a second job, or picking up overtime. The one that there were a couple on there that actually made me sad, and I think that we need to be aware of these as an industry, is that 12% of all buyers reported skipping meals to afford a down payment for their home, and that it was 15% with non-white buyers and 10% of white buyers. And then canceling or postponing health services was another sacrifice that consumers reported making in order to be able to afford the down payment for a home. And those were really impactful to me on the human level. That kind of speaks to where we are with respect to affordability, which is something I'm passionate about.
Yeah, no, I mean, no doubt. The affordability is a conversation that it's hard when you dig deeper and deeper. I do it every day on the hot sheet looking at affordability, and it's just like the numbers, the regulation specifically are holding us back from getting to a place where we're going to see affordable homes. I replied to somebody on Twitter. It was one of these MLS companies, and they put out a tweet. They're like, "When will homes be affordable again?" And I just basically put up that chart of the last 4 decades where home appreciation continues to just accelerate decade over decade over decade. The answer is they're not, unless somebody in DC decides to rip regulation out of the building process and holds the builders to building affordable homes, because you got to get it at the new entry level, because a homeowner looking at the market conditions has no reason to sell their home for less. Of course,
Right.
they're going to meet the market and take advantage of that equity. So you've got to bring new product into the market to be able to help people afford. And people stay in their home 12 years now. So once they can get in there and they can get locked into a payment that they can afford, they're going to stay there if it's the community that they want to be in. So I don't know. That's the only reasonable fix I have is top down. Tom, where do you want to tee up next for us? Because you've got hopefully by the time this pod airs, we have a debt deal, but and you're on the beach somewhere.
Everyone, you live down in Florida, man. So I don't want to hear it. Like, you have a beach down the street all the time. So it's let's get real here. Rates went up, right? Rates are at 7%. That's what we were getting quoted yesterday. And what I find frustrating about this is this nonsense coming out of DC. There is a 0% chance that a debt deal doesn't come together, because the ramifications, if the government lets that happen, both sides, it's a disaster. But it just shows you how reactive the markets are, because there's this debt limit fight going on between the House and the White House, right? And because of the rising risk of default, whether we could sit here and say, hey, we're not going to see this happen. The market doesn't feel that way, and rates have come up to 7%. And even though the probability of a default remains low, and this is according to an economist from Realtor.com, Jai Zhu, the fears and panic related to the potential government default is causing creditors to ask for higher interest rates from the U.S. Treasury, which is resulting into this increase in borrowing costs, specifically mortgages. And the sooner they resolve this, the better. The problem is, it just seems we elect knucklehead after knucklehead after knucklehead, and these guys just want to fight. And we're back up 7%, which I don't think is good for the market.
No, and Janet Yellen forecasted this. She said the closer you get to the deadline and don't have a deal, markets are going to react negatively, because the anxiety of these investors goes up, and we're just getting closer and closer. And you've seen what happened with the 10-year. The 10-year is up over 3.8. And in the last couple of years, anytime it's up over 3.8, you have a 30-year fixed over 7%. I mean, at the taping of this, Friday morning heading into this holiday weekend, we ended yesterday at 7.12 on the 30-year fix in the Mortgage News Daily Survey. The 10-year is up today. So without a lunchtime breaking deal, which could happen, because I think ultimately DC wants to go into the holiday weekend with a deal so they can go and join Tom Toole on the Jersey Shore.
They're giving me some crap. Those guys, like, they take every vacation they can. I mean, they'll be working all weekend.
Tom will be hobnobbing with everybody in DC up at the Jersey Shore this weekend.
They don't come to South Jersey.
Lisa's making ISA calls, and I'm going to go on the golf course and network. It's called networking on the golf course, Tom. But
I network on the beach. There's some very high worth individuals down there.
My anticipation is immediately we will see the 10-year drop once a deal's done. So we could be coming into Tuesday of next week after the holiday with it. If a deal, gets struck this weekend, see a 10-year drop and hopefully get rates back down to about 6.5 on the 30-year fixed, which would be a welcome sign for buyers. The unfortunate part about this delay for home shoppers right now is if you found the house today that you want to buy, you're locking into like 7%, as opposed to in a week, it could be 6.5. That's kind of a missed opportunity. I mean, Lisa, we were talking about like educating people on the cost. Would you delay a buyer a week saying, hey, the reality is this deal probably comes together and the 30-year fix is probably lower next Friday?
Well, I mean, I think they don't need to lock their rate right away. So, and I think that being able to understand, again, consumers turn to agents for that advice, right? I think it's imperative that buyers understand that just because they get an offer accepted doesn't mean they're locking their rate. And I think that, again, we're not utilizing things like ARMs. There's some products out there that can be a short-term solution to get through these kind of bumpy periods. And it really behooves agents to understand what all those products are, the impacts, both positive and negative. And that part of that impact talks about the financial payment aspect of things, right? Hugely important.
Yeah, the conversations with the lender, we've said this before, have got to be daily right now because of these different products, different solutions, and different rate environments that we're experiencing almost by the hour on the 10-year.
Right. Agreed.
It's so important for buyers to talk to a couple different lenders, right? Like I think agents do a bad job with this. They have one go-to lender. Sometimes your go-to lender can't fund the loan. And there's companies out there that will offer a free float down if the rates drop by a certain percentage. So Byron, to your point, and like that a long weekend, historically there's deals to be done on Memorial Day weekend. I find that's if you want to out hustle the market a little bit, you might need to be exploring that, or at least bringing that option to the table for your clients. And this article Lisa put out there for us from Zillow, 41% are concerned about rates. 45% want to know what they can afford. 56% want to know all the costs. I mean, the rate is a cost. So if you're just going to your lender that you like, instead of, hey, here's an array of products, a non-QM lender would be someone good to have in your back pocket, because some people don't have 2 years of income. I mean, we're all real estate agents, right? I mean, we know how that goes. You want to have people that have some innovative products. There's a lot of lenders like that out there. And then obviously your go-to is a great one too. I'm a big fan of giving 3 options to people, because that way they can research it themselves and you can give them some guidance in there instead of just locking into one.
Yeah, talking to Greg Schwartz and Sean over at Tomo, who runs the lenders there, they're doing a lot of non-QM because of that point where right now, if you're a business owner with kind of the high interest rate world that we're in, and your ability to, move money around, invest in your business and these types of things, non-QM makes sense for that individual. Even knowing what non-QM is and being able to explain it as a knowledge broker is important, right? So it's not a Fannie or Freddie loan. It's a non-qualifying loan, right? So Fannie and Freddie are conforming government loans. Being able to distinguish between the two is helpful, just to maybe educate somebody that you meet at the Jersey Shore who's thinking about buying a place in Philadelphia. And it's like, well, I'm a business owner. I can't really buy. The rates are high. They're not really going to approve me. Well, how much revenue do you have coming into your business? Have you thought of non-QM? It's another option than going out and getting a conventional loan.
I mean, Tomo's the company I mentioned that offers the float down. I mean, they offer a 120-day rate lock without an agreement of sale. I mean, that's not a normal product, right? So if rates do come down and you're buying in the next 4 months, that's another option to get some certainty around your payment.
I know, Lisa, you're working with a lender who's offering a free appraisal in the next 3 years. So is there a lender in your is it the next 3 years or the next 2?
A refi in the next
Or
3 years.
not appraisal. I'm sorry. Yeah, a refi. I'm sorry. Yeah. What would an appraisal do you? A refinance, which would take an appraisal, obviously, but a refinance in the future, a free one. And so is there a lender in your marketplace that's doing that, that's offering that type of service and having those types of options for your buyer, so that the more options, the more knowledge that you have, the better. All right, Tom, what do we want to wrap up with here so that you can get down to the shore and fill up your high noons and
It's such a hard time. I mean, I don't. You moved to Florida, so you're at the beach all the time, and I go down one holiday weekend a year.
I haven't been to the beach.
I call BS one holiday weekend.
Yeah,
a year.
What? I haven't been to the beach all year.
Labor Day. I don't know what you guys are talking.
I'm on the golf course. If you want to find me, it's in the golf course. If you want to find Lisa Chinatti this weekend, it's going to just call the Chinatti office. She'll be the one picking up the phones.
Exactly. I'll be picking up the phones and
ordering a home value lead this week.
Tom,
I'm actually going to be doing just that too.
Lisa, Tom, let's spend our entire weekend just prank calling the Chinatti offices. I'll do it from the golf course. You can do it from the beach. We'll just keep acting like
there's a reason my revenues are higher than both of yours. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave that right there. There's a reason my revenues are higher than both.
Well, it's the average price point that we talked about.
Yeah, because I make the calls outside of my market where it's tough.
And Lisa's figured out the secret sauce. If you want to increase the average price point, it's something that listen. I mean, 320 deals at the median price point, which is where my team's at right now, year to date. At the price point west of our market, the increase in pay for everybody, right? Agents, team, revenue would be significant. I agree with you, Lisa. Revenues.
But you're going to play golf instead of looking at lead genning and booking appointments and getting those opportunities.
I mean, I have too many leads. I'm looking at lead subtraction right now. I'm looking at lead subtraction, not lead generation.
Dude, I'm there too. Trust me. It's just that I've still got to service the ones that are coming in. Bad news bears.
Something to be said about the knowledge broker that realizes you have too many leads. I think this is a really interesting topic. We've talked about it, but think about your bandwidth right now. Like if you're going to be Lisa and just work the next 40 years of your life nonstop, or maybe like Byron and I take some R&R, it doesn't really matter. The point is that it's more leads aren't the answer. And so many agents don't get this. And this is what knowledge brokers get, is that you got to make your opportunities count. And it just takes longer to service lead right now. 1 out of 5 agents has not sold a home in a market like this, or 1 out of 5 agents had sold a home in a market like this, excuse me. So 20% knows what to do, but grabbing all the leads and then calling none of them is not an effective strategy, and it's a waste of capital.
I mean, if you're on a team right now, like our teams, right? And I'm not just being biased here. I'm being serious. If you're an agent building your business or restarting your business, or you're just at a place where it's like, I don't have enough leads. So the opposite of what Tom's talking about, being on one of there's a lot of teams out there. Okay. First of all, I was looking at like the MLS in my market the other day, and I'm like, wow, these are teams. Like looking at production of they're registered with the state, paying the state in Connecticut $600 something a year to register as a team. And they're at 8.5 units on the year. I'm like, really? Hello. I mean, that expense doesn't even make sense to classify yourself as a team when you're at 8.5 units on the year. But here's my point. If you're lucky enough to be on a team that's lead generation, I promise you those teams right now on a deal with Z, on a deal with RDC, with these big lead generations, because to Tom's point, where there's so many leads, are overpaying per lead right now. They're overpaying per lead. And you're at the benefit of receiving those leads as the agent without the cost up front. These leads are ultra expensive. One thing I do look forward to, because there's an abundance of real estate leads, is potentially if CoStar makes Homes.com a real player, that competition could potentially in the future bring overall cost of leads down. The near future, I think they only are going to go up, unfortunately, because agents keep paying the piper. But the cost per lead, right? The reason Lisa's going to bleed out of her eyeballs in her office Saturday, Sunday, and Monday is because she knows the leads that are sitting in her database cost her $500, $600, $700, $800 per email and phone number. And it's likely the same lead that's sitting in somebody else's database. And unless she protects it on the front line, those $800 bills are going to go flying out the window. That's the reality of the online lead generation right now. And it's why you feel like I've got too many leads, because you do probably. And it's like some of them aren't replying. Well, because 10 other agents have those leads. That's the problem. That's the real problem. I know Lisa doesn't like hearing it because she's now like, geez, that's a depressing thought going into Saturday, but it's the reality.
No, it's 100% true. I mean, 100%, right? And what I'll counter to both of you, filtering the word that was going to come out, who are going to be slacking off this weekend, is that I will work harder than you two will for 5 to 10 years, so that for the rest of my years, I can sit on the beach and play golf every single day without ever having to go to the office.
I could see it now. Lisa sitting on the beach for 20 minutes and then
be annoyed by the sand. Like there'd be somebody there that like gave her a wrong look or didn't like the color of their bathing suit. She would just lose it immediately.
She'll be on her phone formulating an LLC for some next business venture. And then she'll have 27 spreadsheets by the time her family departs for vacation on this new business plan. Yeah. Lisa on the beach is like such an oxymoron.
Do you know that Lisa and her family had a vacation house and she hated it so much that she made Steve sell it? This is a true story. They actually liquidated the vacation house because they didn't like it so much. I heard you just canceled your daughter's graduation so you could work home value leads. Is that true?
I canceled everything. Everything is canceled. There is no life. It's a cancel culture.
Lisa, will you do any R&R this weekend? As we head
actually, well, you know what I am going to do? Monday, my husband and I are going to head out to the Boston Harbor Islands. And I told him, this was very unlike me. I said, find a picnic backpack, a good one, and a kite. And let's pack a picnic and go fly a kite.
The over-under on this is about 30 seconds.
No, I think Lisa knows.
It doesn't work, I'm out.
Lisa knows how to have a good time. She does. Lisa, you do like experiencing new things. I don't see. I'm just anytime I have R&R, I do the same thing over and over again. It's going to be golf. I'm never going to fly a kite. But Lisa, tell us how that is. We're interested next week. I hope everybody has a great holiday weekend. Tom, I know you're going to enjoy yourself a little bit. Tom will do some work, I'm sure.
Tom will be drunk.
The workstation is set up.
I was there. I can attest. Tom has a workstation in the Jersey Shore. I bet you he's got better.
Does that workstation work as well as his internet?
Yeah, he's got better internet in Jersey than he does in Pennsylvania. I'm sure of that.
No, they're both. I mean, they passed some new laws this year, so the teenagers can't just underage drink all over the place for free and get warnings. So hopefully it'll be a little better.
What's happening? That you're not allowed to buy booze on the Jersey Shore this summer?
No. Well, what was happening was, because the governor in New Jersey, he said you can only give kids. We actually have a video coming out about this today. That you only get a warning, and you could be 16-year-old getting shit-faced on the beach, smoking weed, and all they would be able to do is give you a warning, and that was it. And there was thousands of teenagers on the beach doing this. Which, if I was 17, like sign me up, I'd be there. It sounds fantastic. But when you have a family you're trying to take to the boardwalk, and they're barring you from leaving the boardwalk, it's a little bit of a problem. So it's interesting perspectives. All
right. Hope everybody has a great weekend. If you didn't listen to last week's pod with George Ratiu, make sure you give that a listen over the weekend for all your updates on the housing market going into the rest of the year. Think about that. Memorial Day weekend, there's not as much time left on the calendar as it might feel like there is to be able to go out there and do the deals that you want to support your beach lying activities in 10 years like Lisa's planning on doing. All right, guys, keep it real. We'll see you next week.